Okay, we're talking about dealing with deflection in a conversation. People who deflect don't want to answer questions. They answer questions with the questions, or they'll push back in some way without addressing your issues. And sometimes deflection can be a valid approach. If somebody is asking you inappropriate questions or dealing with you in bad faith, deflecting is a perfectly valid way to respond. But in most cases, it's not. And in most cases, deflection just wastes everybody's time and prevents us from having functional conversations. So here's how you deal with some of these deflection methods that I just identified. If you're not sure which ones I'm talking about, go back and look at my video on deflection. The first is people answer a question with a question. So I'll put my hand up like this, or I'll turn my head a little bit to kind of interrupt the flow, and I'll say, well, I'll answer your question if you answer mine. The second thing is people talk about whataboutism. They say, well, what about her? What about him? What about this? What about that? I'll say, well, I asked about, or we're talking about this right now, which will reorient them to the issue. The third thing people will sometimes do is they'll either interrupt you or they'll create a long pause after you've asked a question without answering it, and then say, let me ask you a question. And this is a perfect time for you to bring in your nonverbal, or then say, well, I'll answer your question if you answer mine, or we're talking about this right now. And that's a way to get people reoriented on the topic of the conversation and actually get things done instead of going in circles.